Welcome to episode 119 of the Forward from 50 podcast, where we interview people over 50 or pursuing new direction for their lives. It's an opportunity for men and women to tell their stories, their way, and in their own words. I'm Greg Gerber, the founder of Forward from 50, and your host for today's show. On today's episode, you'll meet a man who is passionate about helping people live not just longer, but better lives. After a wake-up call following his father's early death at age 73, Norwegian physician and emergency doctor Torkil Færø radically changed his life. What began as a personal journey to improve his health has turned into a best-selling book and global health movement. Torkil discovered how wearable technology, combined with evolutionary lifestyle habits, can empower people over 50 to monitor their stress, track their fitness, and optimize their health in real time. His message is clear that it's never too late to add more vibrant, purposeful years to your life. To tell us how wearables can improve your health and explain what gives him more meaningful life after turning 50, please welcome Dr. Torkil Færø to the show. Thanks for joining me today, Torkil. I appreciate the time. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in identifying wearables as a way to help people monitor their vital signs.
Yes, thank you. Nice to be here, Greg. And of course, it's a long story, but I am a Norwegian general practitioner, medical doctor, emergency physician, and I changed my life somewhere around 10, 11 years ago. Changed my lifestyle. I had not really cared about my lifestyle until then. But my father died at the age of 73, and I just understood that I need to make some better lifestyle choices here so that I can live longer and be healthy into old age. And somewhere along the way, I understood that the heart rate and following your heart rate is an important thing to be able to track your stress balance and your physiology. And I became interested in just for my own sake. And then my publisher thought that, okay, this could be a book for everyone. And it was. In Norway has been just a huge bestseller. Actually, I compared it to US numbers here the other day, and it would signify, I think, a sale of 2.5 million books if it was converted into US numbers. So in Norway, it's just totally changed my life. And it has been on the bestseller list in Norway for close to 2.5 years. Because these instruments are so powerful. I'm talking about smartwatches like Garmin, Oura Rings, Whoop Band, different kind of trackers that can judge and estimate your stress balance and the load on your physiology. And for me as a doctor, getting this information in real time makes it so much more actionable to be able to navigate the stress levels and your health. It's both for my own sake, but also it's been useful for so many people.
That makes sense. Rather than going to a doctor's office when you might be a little anxious about being there for the visit anyway, and your vital signs are off, and that's the only thing that a doctor is using to make a diagnosis, having these wearables could be a way to get much more accurate information about what's going on in an individual's life.
Yeah. Because they will track the heart rate, they will track the temperature, the pattern of movement, they will track the oxygen level in your arteries. So there's a lot of information that they can take in. And of course, when you also use the algorithms of data from millions of users and artificial intelligence that digest these numbers and present it to you in an understandable way, then you have such a powerful tool for the future. It's almost the future is here already, right? But what's also interesting for me as a doctor is that the lifestyle strategies that these devices show is the best is living more like our ancestors did. More of the lifestyle that we are evolutionarily developed for, which is, of course, free. It's free to be under the sun. It's free to be out in nature, to move, to sleep at night, to eat food that our system can recognize as food and not all the ultra-processed food, to minimize alcohol. And so there's so many things that shows that whatever we can do to live a little bit more like the First Nation people, from your country, because there's actually, talking about First Nation people, there was a big survey research 125 years ago, somewhere around the turn of the century then, when the First Nation people were still living pretty much as they always had, being hunter-gatherers. And the number of centenarians in the First Nation people was like 100 times that of the immigrants. So the lifestyle, that it has so much to say on our health.
I was going to say that. With this, you were prompted to go into this when your father died at 73. I was curious as to how long you thought humans could realistically and comfortably live.
Yeah, I was, of course, the average age or lifespan would be 80 years. And he was living a normal life. And I understood from my medical practice that if you do the right lifestyle choices, you could get into your 90s and still have your brain and body performing pretty well. But you really need to do that. You need to pay attention to what you're doing, how you're living to be able to do that. So it was just a wake-up call for me to just take a closer look at my lifestyle, because everything that I write about in my book, The Pulse Cure, I did wrong. So I used to drink a couple of drinks every evening. It was really recommended at the time, doctor's orders. I did not exercise. I did turn I was sleeping. I was working in the night as a doctor. I did not care much about sleep, did not care much about nutrition either. So I did everything wrong. So I needed to do a little bit on each of those areas. So I lost 40 pounds, started exercising, started prioritizing sleep, and all of this, and quitting alcohol, more or less totally. And all of this made me I get more energy. I wake up refreshed in the morning. I feel in a better shape now, 12 years ago since this happened, than I did at the time. So it's absolutely possible to be stronger and more fit in your 50s and 60s and 70s than you could be in your 30s with a poor lifestyle.
People have known for years that they should be doing this stuff, getting more sleep, getting more exercise, eating better foods, not smoking, not drinking, etc. But for them, it sounds like work. Why is it so difficult for us to incorporate this into our lifestyle?
We are tempted by quick fixes, and what so many factors do is that they trigger our dopamine in the brain. We get ultra-processed food with lots of sugar in it that triggers the dopamine. It doesn't satisfy our bodies, it just releases dopamine in our brains. And this is what is motivating with these wearables, that although we know what we should do, just as you say, when you see the result in real time, it gets much more motivating to do the right thing and not to do the wrong thing. So when you can see the result on the screen. So I think that's a huge change, that it gives you the power to change and I call it a physiological speedometer. So it's just like getting a dashboard to your physiology so that you can see how your body is doing and responding to a certain event or food or whatever.
It wouldn't stress us out to see this information in real time?
In the beginning, it probably would, because it would be just like starting to drive a car. And when you see the dashboard, you need to pay attention to everything because everything is new to you. So in the beginning, it would be stressful to some degree, but after a while, you take it in as some of the information that you do take in the course of the day. It becomes natural for most people. Some people would probably be too stressed by it, and then maybe they don't need to follow this way. So I wrote the book for the ones who would think that, wow, I can get a dashboard to my physiology. Wow, I want to do that. I want to find out. I want to get to know my body and my nervous system in this way. So it's of course like if you're writing a cookbook on Southeast Asian dishes, or if you're not interested in that, you shouldn't read it either. But it proves that so many people are interested in it, and so many people use smartwatches, they use the different wearables, and This is actually the world's first guidebook on how to do this. And that is probably why it's been translated into 7 languages. And so it's been quite a journey for me because I'm really just a normal doctor just stumbling over something like this.
Are there some devices that are better than others?
Yes, that would be. So the Garmin devices, which is an American product, they have their headquarters in Kansas. I was actually visiting them last November. That's both the cheapest option and the by far best option.
Okay.
I think you would get watches down to probably around $250. That would do a tremendous job to show you how your stress balance is doing.
Okay. So just the watch? You had mentioned a ring earlier. What kind of ring?
Yeah, so there are different kind of rings too. The best one would probably be the Aura ring. I know that Samsung, so one of the rings I have on me is the Samsung ring. If you use a Samsung watch or phone, Samsung phone, then the Samsung ring could be good. And there are many choices.
Okay.
And you have the Whoop band, which is also an American product, which is just a bracelet. So if you don't want to have a screen, that is an option. So many athletes use that. So you have many different options.
Okay.
So it depends on how much, if you want to really micromanage your stress levels to find out exactly what is stressing me and how much, then probably the Garmin is the best choice.
Okay. And when you are wearing this, it's gathering information. Do you have to remember to go in and look at it, or does it send you alerts if things are not going well?
It could send you alerts. You can, of course, choose to receive alerts either if you are too stressed or if you need to move. So the Garmin watch will just say move. If you have been sitting still for an hour, it will tell you to move. And that is very important because we are not made to sit as still as we are doing. It is really hurting our system. We need to be up and about maybe a couple of minutes every hour, which would also be good for performance. So if you have an office job, then going up, doing some squats, going up and down the stairs to the coffee machine or whatever, then that would improve your ability to concentrate and remember things for the next hour or two. It's an important thing to follow. And also it would raise the attention to that if you are too stressed over a certain level, that now you're too stressed, maybe you should do some breath work or try to calm yourself down. Yep.
So it like interrupts your routine and causes you to think about something that you need to do.
And you can, of course, turn that off if you find that annoying.
Okay. Is there a difference between walking and biking and running?
I think it would be pretty much the same. Of course, running, I think, is really important. I can see that the ones who are running, they have a stronger physiology. And even though maybe you're not able to run all the time, but maybe to walk and run, maybe you can walk 3 minutes, run 1 minute, that you're able to push yourself a bit more than just walking. I see that is really important. I see that most of my patients, whether they are 10 or 20 years old or 60, 70, they are not really able to run over a certain distance. So that is a limiting factor. When you're able to run, you have a better physiology, a better fitness level, which is also something that the Garmin watches will give you. They will give you an estimate of your VO2 max, which is an important number because it will measure your fitness level. That is a sign of how good your body is at metabolism, how to metabolize energy in your body, which is really important, particularly for your brain cells. So often many diseases in the body is really an energy problem. You don't have good enough mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cells, and you really need that for your organs to perform at their best.
Okay.
So moving, exercising is super important.
Does a wearable help you determine what your heart rate is? So when you're out walking, for example, because I know a lot of people in my neighborhood like to walk more than they do run, but walking has to be strenuous, right? It has to elevate your metabolism and your heart rate and all of that. Is that something that the wearables will do, is show you when you've
Yeah.
achieved that optimal? Okay.
Absolutely. You would see that in real time, how your heart rate responds to the walking. So, and you could do walking, but then I would also do brisk walking, that
Right.
you get a little bit shorter breath. That's also a possibility.
What is the ideal heart rate you're looking for when you're out walking or running or biking?
That depends on the intensity that you're searching for. I think even more important is how, because on the Garmin watch, you will see the stress levels, not only your heart rate, whether it's 60 or 80 or 100, but you will see something even more important called heart rate variability, the variation between heartbeats. And this is a way to identify the stress levels on your system. After you've been doing a certain exercise, you can see on the stress levels on the Garmin watch if that was too much or if it was okay. So for a lot of people, they would need to not train so hard. So that depends on the overall stress levels in your daily life. So if you have a stressed life, if you're working and you have a busy family life, you may have a disease, you may have some relational problems, then you may need to step down on the intensity of your workouts. If you have a easy life, an office job, then you can push yourself harder. So the important thing with these Garmin watches is that they can show you your overall stress levels also after the training.
Is there any way for these wearables to help you with blood pressure? That's a big problem here in America.
I know that the Samsung watch, that can give you your blood pressure. I'm not sure I don't think that the Garmin watch, at least at this point, can do it. But it's obviously something that is coming, that is possible to do.
How does the heart rate monitor our state of health?
Our heart will respond immediately to any stressor. Of course, we know that if we exercise, our heart rate goes up. But also if you are eating things that we cannot tolerate well. If we, for example, eat ultra-processed food, for example, the sweets and chocolates and candy or bags of crisps and so on, that are the worst kind of foods. That will give an inflammation in our system, and this will raise the heart rate because your body is struggling to deal with this kind of foods. And it will show when you're drinking alcohol that it's also a stress on your system because alcohol will be transformed into acetaldehyde, which is a toxin, or is toxic to your body, and then your body struggles with this and raises your heart rate also. The heart rate will respond to the demands on your system. So it's a monitor that we are not really equipped to sense that. Because all our senses is like the First Nation. What was threatening their lives? Okay, it was different animals. It was a mountain lion. It was snakes. It was something in the environment that could attack them. But what disturbs our diseases in our day is too much stress compared to our capacity. And if we could feel that stress, inner stress, it would be in the way of the senses to the outward threat. So it really hasn't been developed throughout history, this sense of our inner stress, because it has never been needed. It's only in the last probably few decades that it's our inner stress that is killing us.
I would agree. We're living at a pace that our ancestors would never have thought possible. You're right. The mountain lion would show up in a camp or something like that, and everybody would get stressed. But for a short term, we, as Americans especially, are putting our bodies under tremendous success day after day without any relief. Or we have 1 week of vacation every 6 months, that type of thing, which isn't really enough to do that. There appears to be...
And what happens and what is the problem with this is that it pushes back the immune system all the time because we're in the survival mode, and in the survival mode, the recovery is not prioritized. So we're always pushing the immune system's cells down and it's not able to do its work. So you need the downtime, you need the sleep, you need restful phases of the day. to allow the immune system to do its job. If you don't do that, it's easier to get cancer, heart disease, dementia, Parkinson's, and all the diseases that you really don't want. That is the modern day diseases.
There appears to be a growing trend that people are embracing more holistic and natural methods of maintaining their health rather than turning to pills and stuff like that. Are you seeing that as well in Norway?
Yes, absolutely. Particularly of the young people. And that's very comforting because what I'm used to as a doctor is that people come to me, I have gotten a disease, you give me a pill, and then they go back to the same lifestyle. And it's just not really working. It's dysfunctional medicine, really. So the young generation, probably more than the older one, has found that, okay, I can take control of my health and by doing the right things. And the right things are easy, like I described in the Pulse Cure. It's sleeping 7 to 8 hours. It's eating food that our system knows how to treat. It's minimizing alcohol. It's moving in enough. It doesn't need to be a lot, but you need to move. You need to have a way to mitigate stress, to calm yourself down, whatever that would be. It could be a cold plunge. It could be reading. It could be listening to music. Whatever gives you peace and a calm sense of mind. And that would be the most important things. If you can do that, then your chances of your immune system being able to do its job will improve. And the good thing then, which is almost too good to be true, is that your heart rate will be able to guide you in this endeavor.
My grandmother was 20 years old and had a nervous breakdown, and her doctor told her that if she didn't get her stress level under control, this is back in the 1910s, I think is what that was, that she was going to be in a very serious condition. So she took up gardening and sewing. So throughout her life, she became very good at quilting and in making these beautiful flower gardens outside of her house. And that activity alone just seemed to calm her down. Is that the kind of thing that you're suggesting that we do for fun?
Yes, absolutely. That sounds like ideal activities. Okay. And particularly the combination, because she would sit and sew and be doing routine work. Probably that was a time also of philosophy for her while she's busy doing something routinely. And the gardening, of course, has different, I would say, benefits. Because, of course, the garden is outside and you're under the sun. Mm-hmm. We know now more and more how important sun exposure is. We've been scared away from the sun. That is dangerous for us. But we now know so much more that the sun is really important for our health. The sun and the energy from the sun goes into our cells, and our cells know what to do with it. It will produce many, they think maybe thousands of processes in our cells that is using the solar energy. So we're like walking solar panel, so to speak. And when she's doing the gardening, she's also getting earthing. She's touching the ground, and the ground will also transfer electrons from the ground and to her, and our body uses the electrons as an antioxidant and in various processes in the cells. So there's many things that we lose when we live inside all the time. And Americans, and probably Norwegians as well, in the different research, they will see that we are inside 95% of the time. And there will be something to lose from that in different ways. Also, just seeing nature, letting your eyes go over a landscape like you have behind you on your screen behind you, is important for health and well-being. So there are so many advantages of being outside so her doctor's advice was not only because of her stress levels, but also the benefits from being outside in nature, where we are, of course, being in evolution. That's where we come from.
Here in Sun City, Arizona, we have the sun shining about 310 days a year.
Sun City, I should move there.
You should move there.
Yes.
So you get more sun than you'll know what to do with, especially in June, July, and August. But it's hard for me to go back to my hometown of Wisconsin, home state, because it is so gloomy some days. And your body starts to realize how much it misses having that access to the sun when you don't have it. So people who live in those kind of environments don't realize the benefit of sun. So when they see those nice days, they should get out and enjoy them.
Yeah. And even in the winter, the sunlight, even they don't get a tan, they may not get vitamin D from the sun in the wintertime. Still, half the sunlight is infrared light and red light. And the infrared light goes through clothes, and it goes through your skull even, and inside your body. It can reach, it's estimated, half of your cells can be reached by the infrared lights, which will still be present even when the sun is low on the horizon.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's why going for a hike in the woods is still okay. Even though you don't have access to direct sunlight, you're still out there getting the infrared really.
Absolutely. And in the green leaves of the forest is also reflecting not only green light, but also near infrared light. So it will be reflected from the leaves to you. So it's an additional advantage.
That's very interesting.
That probably was it your grandmother or mother?
My grandmother.
Yeah, grandmother. Because the green leaves would also reflect extra. It would be like mirrors reflecting the sunlight, but only that it reflects the infrared light that is invisible to us, but that our cells are really using for energy production.
What are some of the things that you yourself do for fun?
I do for fun.
Yes.
I actually run for fun. I think and that's just something I did because last summer I was running the New York Marathon and I was training for a year before that. And I just became addicted to running, but I'm really looking forward to the 2 or 3 days a week that I go running.
Okay.
That is something I do for fun. I do sauna and ice baths for fun. So just last week, I was twice in the water. So we go into the sauna and then out into the freezing water and back again. Because that's one of the problems in our lifestyle. We are living in a constant room temperature.
Yes.
And that makes us really rigid. So we need to be more flexible when it comes to temperature also. So it will release heat shock proteins and cold shock proteins that will improve the circulation, the blood circulation. That is also important to be able to be outside in different temperatures.
Well, that's hard for us to do in Arizona when the temperature is
Yeah,
110 degrees to 120.
Yeah, but you could have this cold tubs in your port.
Yeah, you can't have those in Arizona because everything is hot all the time. In your book, you promise that you can give people an extra 24 years of life. They follow some of these things. Now, there's a big difference between 24 years of life and 24 years of quality life, isn't there? So
yeah, but the good thing is that the same strategies that will give you those 24 years of extra life will give you your health span also improves and your brain span, not the least. And this is a big American study from 700,000 veterans from the military service, followed for something like 15 years. And they show that if you follow these 8 strategies or focus areas, then you will live 24 years longer than if you don't do that. And this is also my clinical experience as a doctor, that if you follow the advice that is more or less exactly the same that I'm talking about in the Pulse Cure, you will be going into your 90s, or you will have a good chance of going into your 90s with your brain and your body performing quite well. And that is what most people would like to do. So those areas, people would like to know what that is, but that would be that you are exercising, that you are sleeping well, that you have a good nutrition, that you are avoiding alcohol as much as possible, that you're not smoking, that you have good relationships is important, that you have a low level of stress. And I think there's another one too. Oh yes, the 8th one that I don't have in my book, which is more kind of an American problem, is the opioid crisis. So if you are using or abusing opioids, That's also really bad for you. So if you live on the right side of those, you can check on all of these different areas, then your chances of living 24 years longer is there. If on the other hand, you can check on the opposite side of this, that you have poor relationships, a lot of stress, you're drinking a lot of alcohol, you don't sleep well, and so on, that is when you live less. So you could probably say that if you're in the middle of this, you do something right, you do something wrong, then the average would be 80. If you do it right, you would be 92. If you do them wrong, you would be 68. And this is what I see as a doctor, that it's reflected in how people live and die.
If you could roll back the clock, is there anything you would have done differently 20 years ago?
Yes, I would absolutely have minimized my alcohol. I would have done the things that I do now. But I'm not sure if it matters so much, because these 24 years from this American study is from when people did these, from when they were 40 years old. That is when you get these 24 extra years. I think I usually say that until you're 40, your body takes care of you. It can take so much beating, like physiologically, in a physiological sense. But after you're 40, you have to take care of your body. So I'm not sure if I lost so much from this lifestyle. I hope not. Anyway, if I do these things now, then I can make up for it. And the good thing is that there would be 24 years from when you are 40. But if you start when you're 60, there's 18 years to gain, which essentially means that you are doubling your estimated rest of your life, right? So it's never too late.
Okay.
When it starts getting too late, that is when you get to your 90s. Then it's not, there's a limited, even if you go for a walk every day, even if you eat blueberries all the time, you will not be 150 years old. So we are constructed to deconstruct, so to speak. So we can't avoid that, unfortunately.
Okay. You had mentioned alcohol a couple of times and opioids. What about cannabis? There is a cannabis dispensary on every corner here in Arizona for the old people, which is just weird. They must have grown up with it in their college years, but now they're using it for medical reasons. Is that good or bad?
I would think it's bad, because there's a Dr. Daniel Amen who does brain scans and are looking at our brain health. And he at least says that cannabis, at least when you smoke it and use it in the common way, that's some of the worst thing you can do for your brain. So he says the worst brain scans comes from the ones who are at least addicted or using a lot of cannabis. So I would think that it's not really a good thing to do. There could be parts of the cannabis that is good for you, but I would prefer to rather be out in the sun and going for a walk.
I would agree with that. Where can people connect with you or get more information?
On Instagram, I'm Dr. Torkil, dr.torkil. I also have a website called thepulsecure.com, where I have a free video lecture where you can see what I'm talking about. And of course, my book, The Pulse Cure, is available. It's also an audio book. I know many people who likes to listen to podcasts, that they would also rather listen to the books. It's an ebook, so you could get it. It's a normal published book by a British publisher. So there will be a British accent to the book, but that may be charming, I hope. So it's not me. I'm not the one who's narrated it. That could be really useful for people. I think it's about 7-hour book. And when you have listened to those 7 hours, I think that more than most doctors on preventative healthcare, because this is also part of a big shift because in the US and in Norway, the strategy is we wait until you get sick and then we do something, and preferably with pills or procedures, right? But this is something that makes it possible for you to avoid getting sick if you do this lifestyle. So it's a big shift in mentality, really.
I think COVID changed a lot of people's lives, and recognizing that they have a role to play in their health and they should not rely on pharmacies just to keep them going. So this is good. You've provided some great information here. I like that you're in an audiobook because now people can get out and get moving and listen to you at the same time. So it's the best of both worlds.
Thank you, Greg, for letting me talk about this passion.
Dr. Torkil Færø offers a refreshing science-backed approach to healthy aging. It's one grounded not in medications or quick fixes, but in listening to your body and honoring the lifestyle our ancestors once lived. His philosophy centers on 8 key areas that dramatically influence both lifespan and health span. They are exercise, sleep, nutrition, alcohol use, smoking, stress management, relationships, and, something particularly relevant in the United States, avoiding opioid dependence. In fact, a major study of more than 700,000 American veterans revealed that individuals who optimized these 8 areas could live, on average, 24 years longer than those who ignored them. As Torkil pointed out, these same lifestyle choices also improve your brain function, physical energy, and emotional well-being. Perhaps the most striking is Torkil's claim that it's never too late to start. If you're in your 60s, adopting these changes can still double your remaining life expectancy. Until you're 40, your body takes care of you, he said. After 40, you have to take care of your body. One of the most powerful tools he recommends is wearable technology using devices like the Garmin watch, Oura Ring, or the Whoop band. They track heart rate, oxygen levels, movement, sleep, and even stress via heart rate variability. Torkil describes these wearables as a dashboard for your physiology, enabling users to see the real-time effects of their choices, whether it's poor sleep, alcohol use, or even a brisk walk. But his advice doesn't stop at technology. Torkil encourages people to reconnect with nature and their bodies. He champions sunlight exposure, brisk movement, cold plunges, and even gardening as ways to reduce stress and restore health. Torkil said we're living at a pace our ancestors never imagined. The chronic stress we endure today weakens our immune system and sets the stage for modern diseases like cancer, dementia, and heart disease. That's why downtime, restorative sleep, and calming hobbies like sewing or nature walks are not just simple indulgences, but essential necessities for longevity. His book, The Pulse Cure, distills these lessons into a practical guide now translated into 7 languages. The audiobook version allows people to absorb the information while moving, which is a perfect blend of learning and lifestyle. To connect with Torkil or watch a free video lecture, visit www.thepulsecure.com or follow him on Instagram. His book, The Pulse Cure, is available on Amazon and in other bookstores. Whether you're 50, 60, or beyond, his advice serves as a blueprint not only for healthy living, but thriving in your later years. That's all for this week's show. If you'd like to start living a more meaningful life, I encourage you to download our free guide to finding purpose, which is available at www.forwardfrom50.com. I'll have another inspirational interview on the next episode of the Forward from 50 podcast. Thanks for listening, and if you like this show, please consider leaving a review wherever you download the episodes.